The financial penalty for missing an offshore sail-away date accumulates rapidly. An idle Tier 1 fabrication yard burns approximately $1 million every single day. You cannot buy your way out of that deficit. You can only prevent it. Preventing that loss requires understanding the single axiom that governs every engineering, procurement, construction, and installation contract. An EPCI project exists in two distinct worlds: the digital space of simulations and 3D models, and the physical steel world of welders, cranes, and scaffolding. Your entire mandate as a project manager is to ensure the digital information arrives at the physical yard early enough and accurate enough to be built. Mastering this flow requires climbing through 4 specific stages of project delivery: sequence engineering deliverables, drive a fabrication yard, defend the commercial contract, and select viable asset concepts. The entire physical mass of an offshore platform, every valve, separator, and pump, traces back to a single thermodynamic number in a process simulation. That number dictates the heat and material balance document, the H&MB. Because it defines how the reservoir fluid behaves, the H&MB acts as the parent document for all downstream engineering. Every piece of physical steel is the end result of that digital number. When information is late or incorrect in the paper world, it guarantees a multi-million-dollar collapse in the steel world. Because the H&MB is a parent document, altering it triggers an immediate cascade through the design. Revise a single flow rate, and you force revisions across your piping and instrumentation diagrams, resize downstream pumps, and invalidate purchase orders. To prevent broken designs from reaching the yard, engineering drawings must earn an Issue for Construction, or IFC, stamp. This stamp has 3 non-negotiable prerequisites. All safety hazard actions must be closed, final vendor data must be incorporated, and pressure safety valve sizing must be confirmed. Without all 3, an IFC stamp is worthless. You are simply issuing a rework order to the yard. This chart shows the work front curve, the tool used to track whether engineering is successfully feeding the site. The blue line represents cumulative construction content on issued drawings, and the orange line represents actual site completion. The gap between them is your sequence buffer. To avoid stop-start fabrication and idle welders, you must maintain a strict 3-week minimum gap between issuing a drawing and the yard executing that work. If engineering reports 100% complete, but the drawings were issued in the wrong order, this gap collapses to 0. The yard is now surrounded by finished blueprints, yet entirely starved of actionable work. Because sequence dictates survival, not percentage complete. Sequence is also enforced through the 3D model, reviewed at 30, 60, and 90% maturity gates. If a client requests a new compressor skid at the 30% plot plan stage, you are simply moving digital blocks. Raise that exact same request at the 90% clash detection stage, and you are stripping out and rerouting structural steel, piping, and cable trays at 10 times the cost. As the design matures, you must also defend the physical buoyancy of the asset. A platform has a fixed total displacement. Every kilogram of lightweight growth, the structural steel and equipment you add during design, is a kilogram of variable design load, or cargo capacity, that the operator permanently loses at sea. Engineering success is measured by how flawlessly it manages physical constraints and sequences data to feed the yard, rather than how fast it finishes the document register. Once data leaves the engineering office, it enters a completely unforgiving physical reality. Look at the sheer density of a Tier 1 fabrication yard. Here, logistics and physics neutralize optimism. To build this, procurement must integrate vendor engineering data directly into the design. Equipment cannot even enter this yard without an inspection release certificate. This certificate acts as a hard passport control, requiring fully validated welding procedures and qualification records before a component is permitted to ship. Inside the yard, the schedule is dictated by the availability of heavy lift cranes. If a module is 97% complete and your scheduled crane window opens, you lift the module immediately and finish the final 3% in the air. You cannot negotiate a missed crane slot. To monitor the health of this operation, you must watch the leading indicators. This graph tracks the manpower ramp-up curve. The steep line is the planned requirement for certified welders and tradesmen. The lower line is the actual headcount the yard was able to mobilize. When actual manpower lags behind the plan today, your overall project progress S-curve flatlines roughly 1 to 2 months later. By the time you see the progress drop, the recovery window has already closed. As the yard finishes steelwork, the project transitions to mechanical completion. This status is strictly binary. If a system is 99.5% complete, but still has open A-category punch items, it is legally incomplete and will fail the client handover audit. You cannot bluff your way out of the steel world. Crane availability, welder headcounts, and binary completion checklists hold the schedule hostage to physical reality. When those physical realities cause schedule delays, the survival of the executing company depends on the contract model. Under a lump sum turnkey contract, the contractor pays for every overrun out of their own margin. Under a reimbursable model, the owner absorbs the risk. Defending that margin requires intense discipline regarding scope boundaries. If a client submits a technical query that provides a direct instruction to alter a design, that document is legally a change order, regardless of what the header says. Project directors must apply one overriding principle: never accept unquantified liabilities. If you do not fully understand the local laws, taxes, and import duties of the execution country, you refuse to price them. When commercial and engineering discipline fails, the results are catastrophic. This is the hull of the Jurasol FPSO sitting in a dry dock in Korea. The construction of this multi-billion-dollar asset was paralyzed because engineering failed to deliver a single set of missing data: the topsides hull reactions. Without those numbers, the steel world froze. Recovering a stalled project of this scale requires emergency medicine. For Jurasol, leadership abandoned standard reporting and restructured the commercial reality. They aligned subcontractors using target price plus incentive schemes and relocated integration to a high-productivity yard to buy back time. When execution stalls, demanding harder work achieves nothing. You stabilize the project by deploying contract levers and restructuring the financial incentives of every participant. The final stage of EPCI mastery happens before the contract is even signed. Look at this completed offshore complex operating in deep water. Approving an asset of this scale requires executive governance that respects physics and economics equally. During concept selection, executives must accept that water depth dictates structural viability. Tension leg platforms and spars have hard physical depth limits due to tether designs and riser weights. Physics overrules both the shape of the reservoir and the preferences of the business. If a proposed concept requires an unprofitably low break-even oil price, the executives must reject the architecture entirely. You cannot close a massive structural economic gap by simply squeezing execution efficiency. To protect the firm from signing toxic contracts, executives mandate cold eye reviews on all high-value tenders. External experts ruthlessly audit the bid, forcing the optimistic bid team to prove their productivity assumptions with hard data rather than relying on internal bias. These reviewers pay specific attention to local content requirements. Mandating the use of indigenous labor and fabrication facilities increases fixed project costs while simultaneously restricting the available resource pool. This restriction introduces severe, unpriceable schedule unpredictability. Executive governance is the final failsafe. Sanctioning a physically flawed concept or an artificially optimistic bid guarantees a failure that no amount of brilliant yard execution can reverse. Delivering a viable concept requires solving the most common point of failure, the corporate org chart. When engineering, procurement, and project management sit in separate departments, simple technical questions mutate into multi-day email chains. These rigid internal silos cause more delays than any external supplier. The structural cure is the integrated task force. By physically co-locating all disciplines onto a single floor under one project manager, you dissolve the departmental boundary limits. Bureaucratic emails become immediate cross-desk conversations. Co-location collapses decision latency, rather than simply forcing the team to work harder. When decisions happen in hours instead of weeks, you maintain the speed required to protect your 3-week sequence buffer at the yard. This is the complete EPCI architecture. You sequence the digital paper world to feed the physical constraints of the yard. You enforce the contract commercially to survive delays, and you apply executive rigor to select concepts grounded in physical reality. When you align the organization and protect the flow of data to the skill world, the bleeding stops. The heavy lifts execute on schedule, the binary punch lists clear, and the asset sails away.